Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and long time no see. If you guys didn't catch it, I just went back to back. I posted a video for my bets for this upcoming UFC card, and then I also did a Contender Series breakdown for next week's Contender Series bouts. And now I decided I wanted to do the regional fights for this week. I haven't been able to finish LFA just yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there for the full card. I'm going to do my damn best, though. That's what I'm going to be working on after this. But I was able to break down the entire CFFC card for you guys. I got it ready. I got notes. I did all the tape. It was horrible. Some of these matchups suck. And there's not many spots. I'll say that right away. Some of the spots I'm going to be skipping if there's no tape or not enough information. Or I'll let you guys know if there's not enough information to make a play. Some of these spots are just too heavy favorites. Like you shouldn't be laying these kind of price tags. But we'll talk about it as we go on. So without further ado, let's get right into this card. So for our very first scrap that we've got anything for. So the first two, we don't have lines for them. So obviously not going to break those down. But for this fight, we've got Mann versus Quadarrius McGinnis. Mann is 2-1-0. He's 25 years old. He's 5'9", and he trains out of the LC. And then on the other side, you've got McGinnis, who's 7-4-0, 26 years old. I do not have a height for him, but I do think he's taller here. But that's just a guess. And he's training out of Spartan Fitness, and he is a southpaw, so that's important to note. There's always an advantage for southpaws over orthodox, and Mann is, in fact, orthodox. Now, I said I'd let you guys know if there's too little information. There's too little information here. For Mann, there's just not enough tape for Mann. Let me see what he opened up at. He opened up at -125, so I'm not really sure why. Maybe because he has a shinier record, but it's 2-1-0. Like, that's not that shiny. And he's good, right? But he hasn't shown anything too crazy. His last win was like a standing guillotine. And, his wrestling is sloppy. He's got a front kick. But like I said, you have 1 minute of tape to work with from Mann. McGinnis, good clinch work. Nice front kick. His knees are great. The striking's actually pretty good. The solid's good. The jab is solid. And the takedown defense, that's a problem here. It's a bit rough. And I think that could be a problem against a guy like Mann, who does seem to wrestle. Now, McGinnis, he has been 3 rounds more than once, whereas Mann's never been out of round 1. And Mann is also very green, 3 pro fights, whereas McGinnis has had 11 pro fights. Now, I do lean McGinnis. I kind of wanted to play it, but I'm not going to be playing somebody against an opponent who has 1 minute of tape for me to work with, right? I just can't do that. That's irresponsible. So I'm probably not going to be playing it, but the lean is McGinnis. Moving right along. This is another one that was kind of interesting. Here we've got Tran, who's 1-1-0, versus Kris Williams, who's making his pro debut. Now, Tran, 1-1-0, 31 years old, 5'6", and he is training out of Pyramid BJJ and Muay Thai. Williams, on the other side, like I said, he's making his pro debut. For amateur fights, I forgot the exact number. Let me pull it up. He's 3-0 as an amateur. So, he's got a little bit of experience, but not really. Tran does have more fights. Tran, on the other side, 2 pro fights, and he's had 7 amateur fights. 8 fights. He went 6-2-0 as an amateur to Tran. And, yeah, so I forgot if I said it, but Williams is out of Gilbert Grappling also. There's a bunch of guys on this card from that camp. It's an all right camp from what I can tell, but I guess at least it's good they can come with their whole team. But this one's interesting because they're both kind of grapplers. But again, there's a little bit too little information to really make a solid pick. Now, it seems to me like Williams has the better striker here. He's got a good jab, but he can get a little bit sloppy. But I think that Tran just... there's not enough information on his striking, so I can't fully tell. But his striking seems very basic and not very good. And he himself seems very hittable. Now, what I will say, though, is I think that Tran is the better grappler here. I think his wrestling is actually really good. And what he does on the ground is really impressive. He's got good transitions, 1 sub win as a pro, 3 sub wins as an amateur. And I actually really, really liked what I saw on the ground from him. And then on the other side, Williams, like I said, he's also a grappler, but in his last fight when he got the takedowns, both times, right? He got it twice in both first round and second round. Both times his opponent just fell over. Like, he's either catching kicks or his opponents are just falling over. So I do actually kind of like Tran here. I do. Do I want to bet it without knowing what his striking looks like? No, I do not. He's plus 145 now. Come back on Williams is minus 175. I certainly wouldn't play Williams, especially making his pro debut and just not being that great. But while I lean Tran and I think Tran could win, I don't have enough info on his striking. But the grappling is there, and I do think he has the grappling edge here. So my lean is certainly Tran. Moving right along. So, I'll be quick to say no bet here for sure. Wilson is a tremendous favorite. This is classic low-level heavyweights. You should never, ever, ever be betting minus 600 on, honestly, any any regional fight, but especially a regional heavyweight fight. You should not be laying minus 600. But for this fight, we've got Patera Wilson versus Stan Tippins. Wilson is making his pro debut, 25 years old, 6'2", training out of law school MMA. And on the other side, you got Stan Tippins, who's 2-1-0, 29 years old. The guy is 6'5", and he's got an 83-inch reach. So this dude is massive, but he's not ripped massive. You check out his body shape, not the best physique, but he is huge. And he trains out of the Cage MMA and Fitness. So when I first looked at the tail of the tape here, I was like, wow. I want to look at Tippins, plus 400 dog, regional heavyweight, low level. But, I need to see a path for Tippins, and I'm not really seeing it. One thing I will give him is Wilson weighed in at 223 in his last fight, whereas Tippins weighed in at 267, 44 pounds heavier. And, those kinds of things make a big difference, right? That kind of weight will make a big difference. Wilson is definitely the better striker. His striking's pretty clean, and the combos are good. Tippins on the other side, his striking's all right. He's got big winging shots. I just think that Wilson's going to beat him to the punch. But, Tippins not out of this. I think he can land. And both guys, neither of them are really grapplers. And they dealt with grapplers their last fight. Both of them fought chubby fellas who out-wrestled both of them. And that's what they struggled with a little bit. But I don't think there's going to be any grappling here. If anything from Patera, but I don't think so. And, you got to think Wilson's probably the better fighter and probably should win. Like Tippins, he went to a split with an 0-2-0 truck driver. Not high level at all. But, I'll never play minus 600 on a regional heavyweight. So if I played anything, it would be Tippins if maybe it gets to plus 700-800. But I don't think it will, and I don't think it's worth a bet. Both guys are very low level. Tippins is very sloppy, so not worth playing. Moving right along. All right, so this is another one where there's not a lot of tape, so I'm going to be very quick. But here we've got Trey Manley versus Isaack Watkins. Manley is 3-1-0. He's 156 pounds. Don't have an age for him. 5'7", and he trains out of Memphis Judo and BJJ / American Top Team apparently. And then on the other side, you've got Isaack Watkins, who's 1-0 as a pro. The kid is 20 years old. He's got some good amateur wins. He beat Itzo Bubaladze as an amateur. That guy's really tough as well. And he's another one of these guys on this card, training out of Gilbert Grappling. So real quick, I'm just going to get down to it. Watkins is a minus 290 favorite. Manley's plus 230 on the comeback. And there's just not enough information from Manley to understand that he can get a chance to win here. His striking looks okay. His front kick is good. He's very hittable, though. And on the other side for Watkins, his striking's good, but the output is very, very low, which I don't like. He's got 2 KO wins. Takedown defense is weak, but the get-up game is solid. He's got no pro finishes, but he's never lost either. And, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to trust a 20-year-old. I don't want to be betting minus 290 on a guy who's 1-0, who's 20 years old. So definitely a pass here. I do think Watkins wins. I think he's the rightful favorite. But there's way, way, way too little information to work with on that fight. So we're going to move on. All right. So for this next one, we've got TJ Welch versus Jonathan Piersma. Welch is 2-2-0. I do not have an H for him either. Oh, no, I actually do have an age for him. I pulled it up. He's 22 years old, so he's actually 4 years younger than Piersma. And then Piersma is 3-1-0, 26 years old, 5'11", training out of Synthesis BJJ. Now for Welch, according to CFFC, he's 6'4", not 6'2". If that's the case, he's going to be 5 inches taller here, or 3 inches if topology is the correct one. Look, this is all it comes down to. On the feet, Welch could probably hold his own, honestly. But I actually kind of give him the edge on the feet because I think his striking's decent and he can use his length. But boy, is his takedown defense terrible. He scrambles well, but Piersma, BJJ black belt, really high level, 3 sub wins. Is he a black belt? I could be wrong there, actually. But he is a high-level BJJ player. He's really good at what he does. Good transitions, just very slick on the mat. And I think it's more than likely that Piersma takes him down, takes Welch down, and submits him. I don't think that Welch has enough of a ground game. If he doesn't, I think it'll be close on the feet. But I do think Piersma takes this fight. He's minus 400, so it's absolutely not playable. But I do like Piersma to win this fight. Probably by submission. Moving right along. All right, so this is probably my first bet. Both bets I'm going to make on this card are underdogs. So here we've got Reginald Adams versus Justice Lamparez. Adams is 6'3" 0. Excuse me. He's 5'10", training out of law school MMA. He is a southpaw, worth noting. And on the other side, you got Lamparez, 6'5" 0, 5'8", training out of Gladiators Academy. And I do think he's a bit taller than 5'8". You look at his fight with Echeverry, and Echeverry is 5'11", and Lamparez is a bit taller than him. So I think he's more like 6'1", 6'2", but you can't really tell. We're going to have to see how they face off. Have they already faced off? That's something I got to look up. But yeah, so honestly, I don't really understand why. I think the only reason Adams opened up this much of a favorite is because of his shiny record. You know, as a pro, he's 6'3" 0, but as an amateur, he went 6-0. So maybe that's a little bit of what it is. And Lamparez on the other side has a pretty ugly record. But, you know, if you actually go down to it and you look at it skill for skill, like, I think it could be a close fight. So, all right. So first off, you look at Adams, right? And you look at his most recent loss. It was Jesse Stern in CFFC. And it's not a terrible loss. Stern is pretty good. He's a very good grappler. And what happened there? Adams just got out-grappled. That's what happened. He got out-grappled by Jesse Stern. Not a terrible thing. Now, you look at Justice, and can Justice grapple? Not really. No. His takedown entries are ugly, and he has a hard time keeping top control. But his defensive grappling is pretty good. He's hard to hold down, and he can reverse position really well. Adams as well with the defensive grappling. You know, he got taken down in round 1 by Stern, but was able to reverse it too. Adams 4 sub wins, but he hasn't done it since 2018. Never been submitted. Lamparez 2 sub wins, 2 sub losses. And then, yeah, I mean, so this is what it comes down to for me. I think that Lamparez is actually the better striker here by a decent bit. You know, Adams is okay. He's got good kicks, but his hand striking is meh. His overhand right is terrible. He's super sloppy. And I just think overall the striking is pretty crappy. No KO wins as a pro in 9 fights, 2 as an amateur, but this was in 2015, 2016. And yeah, I just think that, you know, like Adams hasn't shown much in terms of offensive wrestling, and Lamparez has shown quite a bit in terms of being able to scramble, reverse, and get up. And on the feet, I actually think Lamparez is better. So I'm probably going to be sitting alone on an island here, and I'm probably going to be playing Lamparez. He's plus 300 now. I do wonder if the line's going to move at all. Let me check it out right now. So far, no movement, but that's the side I'm leaning on. You know, he's a dog. You watch this guy fight. Like, he's tough, and I think he's better than his record reflects. Like, his fight with Echeverry was a good fight as well, and I'm pretty sure he picked up the W there. So, yeah, I like Justice here. It's not a tremendous, you know, confidence pick. I'm probably only going to play him for like 0.33 units, something like that, a third of a unit to win one. But yeah, I do like Justice there. I do like Justice. But we're going to move right along. Here's probably the only favorite that I'm like comfortable with in any form. But here we've got DeAndre Anderson, 5'2" 0, 25 years old, 5'6", and he is training out of Cobra BJJ. And on the other side, we got Beau Samaniego, Samaniego is 3-1-0, 26 years old, 5'8", 71-inch reach, and he trains out of Gilbert Grappling. So this one's interesting because Anderson, both of these guys are good wrestlers, right? Both of them are good wrestlers. But you look at Anderson, he's got the credentials for sure. He's from Alabama, good wrestling state. And I copy-pasted his high school achievements in wrestling. 2015 AHSAA 132-pound state champion. 5 years on varsity, 3-time state qualifier, 2-time sectional runner-up, 1-time sectional champion. 2014 Alabama national team member. 3rd place at Southeast Regional Greco. 5-3 at Fargo Nationals. High school record of 152 wins and 15 losses. So Anderson is a really good grappler, and his takedown defense also looks really, really good. Now, his striking also has been improving. You look at it, I think he's got a few boxing fights outside of MMA. His jab is good. He's slick in the pocket. The striking's decent, but I would say his best weapon is his jab. But I think that Samaniego, right? So his takedown defense is really solid. And he's shown that he's difficult to submit. He defended really well against BJJ black belt Rodriguez in his last fight. He's a BJJ blue belt himself, wrestling since 6 years old, according to him. His striking is pretty crisp. He mixes targets really nicely. The boxing is very good, and he's got very fast hands. Both these guys, good amateur records as well. Samaniego 5-0, Anderson 5-1-0. So, yeah, I do think that Samaniego wins this fight. I just think he's the better striker. I think that the grappling goes to Anderson. But first off, Samaniego is 2 inches taller. He's going to be the bigger man. I think he's going to be a bit stronger here. And if Anderson can't hold him down, which I don't think he can, I think he's going to struggle on the feet. And I think that Beau Samaniego is going to pick up the W, probably by decision. And we'll move right along. All right. Here we've got another giant favorite. There's a ton of them on this card. Here we've got Raheam Forrest versus Trevor Ollison. Raheam Forrest is 4-0, 25 years old. And then no height for him, no gym for him, unfortunately. And then Ollison, 5-4-0. And I did try to look up the Instagram, by the way. I just couldn't get it for Forrest. But Trevor Ollison, 5-4-0, 33 years old, 5'11". I think that, oh no, they're actually the same height. I was able to find that Forrest is 5'11" as well. Ollison is training out of Hot Springs BJJ. That's a guess. There's a logo in the background that looks like a Gracie logo, but I can't tell in his Instagram, so this is just a guess. But yeah, I mean, I see why he's such a big favorite. Forrest, you look at their amateur records, I mean, neither of them is really that shiny. Ollison 1-3-0, Forrest 5-6-0. Forrest, he's got pretty good striking. He's got good head movement. It's his wrestling that stands out a little bit. He's got great hips. 0 sub wins, 0 sub losses. He came into his last fight against the guy in the main event, Donovan Beard. Forrest is actually the underdog, and he won that fight with his grappling. And I think that's what he's going to do here. Ollison's takedown defense, this is my notes. Oh my God, it's bad. Because it's so bad, man. He fought in his Johnson fight. He was just falling right over. He's just not great. He does attack subs off his back really well. He's got 4 sub wins. Maybe he throws up a triangle or an armbar here. I wouldn't be shocked. You know, Forrest is still kind of green. But, yeah, I mean, I think Forrest should win this fight. I think he should win it pretty comfortably through the grappling. If they stay on the feet, though, I think it's going to be close. I think that Ollison can keep it close on the feet. But I do think Forrest wins. But at minus 450, there's no surprise there. And there's no point in playing it either. And now we're up to the main event. And I've got to play here. And I've got to play here on the dog. So here we've got Miles Lee versus Donovan Beard. Miles Lee is 3-0, 24 years old, 5'10", and he trains out of Renzo Gracie, Philly. So we know how the guys out of there look. We just saw, what's his name? Pfeiffer come out of there. Looked amazing on the Contender Series. So, you know, you have to imagine Miles Lee's going to come in here with really, really good grappling, right? But now, on the other side, you got Donovan Beard, 6-1-0, 32 years old, 6'2", training out of Off the Chain MMA. And look, I always say this, but we as MMA gamblers are so fickle. literally in his last fight, Donovan Beard is the favorite over Raheam Forrest, who's now a minus 450 favorite in his own right. Now all of a sudden he's plus 300 to 3-0 Miles Lee. Why? He's 4 inches taller. Miles Lee is 8 years younger, so he's got that going for him. And Lee definitely is at the better camp. Now, Lee's never submitted anybody. He's got no sub wins for a guy coming out of Renzo Gracie Philly. It's all decisions. As a pro, as an amateur, he had 3 sub wins, an armbar, and 2 Kimuras, but nothing as a pro since then, and he's fought not the best competition. His last fight against Earl Small was definitely closer than it needed to be. His wrestling is what sticks out. That's what he's good at. He's very explosive, but he can get in the striking, can get a little bit sloppy, a little bit wound up. Like I said, with that explosiveness, he's kind of leaving himself open with those hooks, so he's a little bit hittable. But it's the wrestling that's a standout for him. And then Beard on the other side, I think he does have solid striking, good combos, good 1-2. His grappling's pretty good as well. It's just not as good. And his takedown defense isn't great, but he scrambles and gets up really well. So I don't think that Beard is, you shouldn't be playing him even for a unit, but for a half unit, I'm going to probably do a third of a unit on him as well to win 1 unit. I think it's a good play. Miles Lee is unproven, 5'10". He's much smaller, a little bit one-dimensional here, needing that wrestling. He's very low output on the feet. I think Beard with that 6'4" height, 6'2" height, is going to use his length, beat Miles Lee on the feet. So I am going to play Beard. He's plus 300 now. I'll see if it gets any. He's plus 3. Yeah, he's plus 300 now. I'll see if it gets any deeper. He opened up at plus 160, just so you guys realize. But yeah, I like Beard. That's going to be my play here. And that's it. That's the CFFC 111 card. If you guys haven't checked out my Contender Series breakdowns for next week, I aired that right before this. So make sure to check that out. And then right before that show, I recorded my bets for UFC 277. No breakdown, just quickly ran through my bets. So if you want to know what I'm betting this upcoming weekend, make sure to check that out. And yeah, follow me at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter for all updates on my bets as I make them. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I will see what happens with the LFA content. I'm going to do my best, but no promises because it's a huge card. But thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate every one of you. And let's go get those bookies.